I'll take a stand, declare the truth. I don't care if it bothers you. I'm gonna speak it louder above the noise. Not gonna budge, not gonna move. Come on, my friends, I need to hear you. Come on, let's speak it louder above the noise. Come on, let's scream it louder with one voice. I unmask myself so the world can see something that's a part of my story. Not gonna hide it. Oh no, not gonna hide it. I unmask myself so the world can see something that'll help another soul in me. Not gonna hide it. Oh no, not gonna hide it. Oh no, not gonna hide it. Oh no, not gonna hide it.
Episode 4 of Shut the F Up. I am your co-host, Murray Elbourn, and I am today with the illustrious
Alison. We're already getting into the crosstalk. I'm Alison DeFranco. Go ahead, Murray.
Alison DeFranco. Tell us about Alison DeFranco. What do you do?
Alison, I was going to talk about myself. So yeah, hi. I'm someone that my background is I have a disability. Stargardt's, diagnosed at 14. If you don't know me, my story was something we talk about here on the podcast a lot. We talk about it in other ways, but that was what drove me to go to law school. So I have a background in disability law and disability studies. I did lose my job last year during some of the cuts to disability funding. So I have become, I guess, a content creator, right? And trying to make sure we're raising awareness about disability stuff. And I've also created a disability rights learning and advocacy community called the Disability Power Arena, where I use my skills and expertise to help people understand what's going on, because a lot's going on. And that sums it up for me, because we do a lot on this podcast too. And I'm super excited to be back.
Yes, it has been a little bit of a hiatus. I was in Australia seeing family and friends. I thought I'd lost my house as part of the Spokane wildfires. And so there was a lot kind of going on. And then we had a workshop for my company, Amerability. So I'm the CEO of Amerability Services, which is one of the largest vendors in the Pacific Northwest for vocational rehabilitation, and PREETS, which is pre-employment transition services for youth with blindness and low vision. So that's who we are.
Yeah, and I just want to say that we're really, from me, and I know everyone who supports everything you do, Murray, like anyone who doesn't know, I'm so happy that your house is okay after the Spokane fire, and sending out heart positive vibes to a lot of your neighbors who may have had more damage. So
absolutely, we were
that
around the neighborhood yesterday, and 3 streets away, every house is gone, and so it's a horrific thing. And anybody who's listening from Spokane or has been to Spokane, those fires just destroyed so many people's lives. And we with those people and wish them the best. And we're I'm just thankful that our whole neighborhood didn't go up. We were surrounded by fire, and by some grace of God, it didn't come into the neighborhood. But people are moved out and not getting funding and are in a bad situation. And so we hope that things start to play out for those people, and they do get their funding that they need to rebuild. And we wish them all the best.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and to other people throughout the country that are being affected. Obviously, with you being from the area and it being an arsonist who started it, but the natural fires, we're seeing wildfires. We're thinking of everyone. We're hoping that
hurricanes. There's a lot going on for sure.
Yeah. So and
anybody who's dealing with that, our hearts go out to you. And I understand some of what you're dealing with. So hope that you all get back to wherever you need to be safely.
Yeah, and I think just one thing before we really get into it, just to note, we could do this on another podcast, so stay tuned for this, but definitely talking about the extreme weather events and the disproportionate impact it has on people with disabilities. We've seen that the US and around the world. My expertise and I've worked in over 35 countries on this topic. So that's something we come back to because we are Shut the F Up Disability Power podcast. We talk about disability issues. We talk about everything here, but stay tuned. That'll be an episode we could do in the near future because it's a very important topic.
Absolutely. So, Alison, there's a lot going on since we've last recorded and lots of changes. Well, I guess we might start with what we did talk about before. But before we do get into that, I just wanted to give a plug for what I'm wearing today. Sure. This is the US Blind Tennis National Championships t-shirt. We held our first national championships in Pittsburgh. It's great to be able to see the growth of blind and low vision tennis. And today is actually the first day of the IBTA World Blind Tennis Championships in Lithuania. And so you can see all the games. They are live on YouTube. If you just search IBTA Blind Tennis World Championships, you'll be able to see it. It's a daily thing that you can search on YouTube. So please check it out. Let us know what you think. Alison is starting her journey in singles and doubles, motivated by Serena and Venus's comeback to the tennis world. We have our blind tennis ball here. And so many people want to play. And we're thankful. I'm also the president of US Blind Tennis. So very thankful that we can provide an opportunity for people with disabilities to get out, be active in their community, do something fun, but also have that health and recreation perspective as well. So,
I'll just jump in real quick and let people know what I'm repping for my clothing choice. I have a number 10 jersey. It's not a jersey, it's a shirt. It is in 10. It's got Messi's name at the bottom. It's part of the brand. It's pink. I kind of wanted to go with this. 2 years ago, I had the amazing experience to go to, I'm holding right now a pink hat. Pink has been somebody I love as a singer. Pink, come on to our show. I obviously, you have to style things. Jewelry is important, everyone. So fidget toy, jewelry, bling bling. I have a green one on my bracelet. I have a orange one, courtesy of Alison Pomeroy. Thank you. And of course, I have a pink one, to up here on the arm. And one more thing is I am wearing a scarf. I realized that wanting to bring in my scarves as my international experience. I believe this one is from Indonesia. So, and the number 10, I do want to really quickly say, I love sports. Murray loves sports. We're huge sports fans. All types of sports. I mean, we talk nonstop sports on and off here. Adaptive sports, men's, women's, boys, girls, every type of disability. So,
and it's really important, when we think back to where adaptive sports started really in the Mandible Games before the Paralympics in England. There was a doctor that came from Germany who really believed that rehabilitation started with positive thought process and getting people out and doing things and making them feel capable. And so they're all the things that we love about, adaptive sport and recreation and how it's changed. So that's a big part of what our podcast is here at Shut the F Up. And if anybody is interested in learning more about adaptive sport and recreation, please message us at Shut the F Up. I used to be in a different life, CEO of Disability Sports Australia. And as I said, I'm still the president of US Blind Tennis here in the United States. So if we don't know, we'll find somebody who does know to get you plugged in. And just going out and doing something and feeling part of your community is a really important part of what we want to give to you guys. So please let us know if we can help with setting you up with something.
Yeah, 100%, including across the board. If you're somebody who was born with a disability, somebody who's recently acquired a disability, whatever it may be, between us, sports lovers, and also helping if you don't know how to find maybe accessible watching and enjoying sports in different ways. That's another thing. So yeah, I got the number 10 just so everyone knows. I'm an October 10th birthday, so 10-10.
10-10.
Yeah, and I've started to realize that a lot of my favorite athletes have, rep the number 10. So I'm gonna be bringing that in. So that was another thing. But
I'm 920, so I'm double 10 and then one less than 10. So It's a balance, right?
So everyone listening right now is like, we're doing some math here too today,
Yeah,
everyone. This is
that's
educational outside of, yeah.
important. Just before we get started on the topics that we want to cover in episode 4, Alison,
Yeah.
I'd love for you to talk about the Disability Power Arena and some of the
Yeah.
things that you're doing in there. I am your number 1 member. I joined first, but I'm privileged to be in the arena. I joined because my business wants to teach people about their disability rights and their self-advocacy, which is also an outcome of the federal government through vocational rehabilitation services. And so it's really important that people know their disability rights and also the history of disability. So, Alison, do you want to talk about some of the things that you're doing as initiatives in the power arena?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things, and I think that because of thank you members like Murray number 1, but I want to just shout out, we have amazing arena members that so far have joined we have our founding members that your input, your questions are what inform me. So if you're not a member and you're interested, I'm going to explain just a little what is included, but some of the questions and stuff that I answer people that are in the arena, those are the priorities. There's a lot of learning resources. That's something that I think gets lost on people when they maybe see my videos and stuff. So I do want to say there is resources that are modules that are literally answering questions I've received online for a year, right? Breaking down the ADA into plain language, just non-legalese, like I don't, not boring, right?
Yeah,
That's the best way to
definitely
put
not boring. Definitely
it.
never boring.
But I also recently, a couple of the resources, it's just based on what's happening right now. I just completed going through all 50 states, right? Is because we're going to keep, there's an attack on disability rights and community living movement right now here in the US at the federal level. We're going to keep fighting that, of course, everyone. However, I have put together because at the state level, people need to know what they can be doing. So that type of resource, that is 100% something that's part of being in the arena. We have an advocacy community forum discussion area. And then we do have live events. And I think that's where people sometimes think is the only thing we have. And then some people have even said to me, oh man, I saw when I joined the advocacy forum, I saw some people's introductions and I'm intimidated and I don't know what I would add to the conversation. I want to be so clear. We have master classes. That's mostly me going through and breaking down the big things and some interaction, right? And I provide full outlines so people can really try, follow along or and kind of and have what are some concrete steps after that you can take, right? Because I think that's really important in adult human rights, disability rights learning, right? As well as we have coaches corners 2 a month, and those are just fun. We're taught we have a hot topic, and I facilitate the discussion and really members all backgrounds, any education level, it is fully, participatory. And then Disability and Pop Culture Day, which I think we have a lot of interesting discussions. Our first one was about Crip Camp and a Disability Revolution. So the documentary on Netflix, if you haven't seen it, check it out.
Yes,
We
it
had
is.
such a good discussion.
I actually, when I was just doing the workshop with my 13 teenagers in transition, I said, you have to go and watch that. And then the next day, people would come and said, oh, I started to watch it, or I watched the whole thing, or it was amazing. Like, it really, I didn't even know it existed. And when I went
Yeah.
and looked at it, it was such a big thing for me to understand where things started and how disability rights came about, and so good. And, I just want to say, like, off what you just said is, there's something for everybody in the disability power arena. A lot of people feel really isolated in their disability. And it's not just one thing. Obviously, we have both vision loss, but as I said, I've worked with physical disability, intellectual disability. So the broad range, and Alison has as well, obviously. And so the broad range of our experience is working with everybody in the disability community, and that's really important to know and understand. So if you feel a little isolated, or you want to understand your environment of disability more, the Disability Power Arena is perfect for you, because there is that lesson planning and the resourcing that exists, but there's also that community that exists that you can talk to, feel part of, air things that are on your mind, ask questions, get support. It's all part of what Disability Power Arena offers.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I think one of the again, the members, you guys are awesome. If you're already an arena member, it's called the arena, by the way. That took me longer to come up with the title. You know this story, right, Murray? So anyone who's like, why is it the arena? um, Took me longer
Because
than
Alison used to be a
any,
massive basketball star, MVP, and she loves playing in the arena. And so it's second nature to her to be able to
yeah.
do things in the disability power arena.
Exactly. It brings in my love of sport. It brings in, I actually just did a video that I'll post probably later today, which is when I was at the Pink concert and I was like, Sheryl Crow opened up for Pink. I mean, can you imagine? Like, I get to see Sheryl Crow and Pink, right?
That's a
And,
pretty good double duo.
and I openly admit I did try to walk onto the stage at the Sheryl when she was opening, and
Right.
that was just kind of one of those like slow walks.
Yeah.
And security was like, I'm getting close, and they were like, "Oh, no, where are you going?" And of course, my friend who's with me said, "Oh, she's blind. She's blind."
Right. Yeah.
No, she was just trying to get on. I was just gonna get up there and dance,
Yeah.
But yeah, like bringing those vibes, and I have a really cool where I'm panning the audience, and it's like I think people with disabilities, we're so often, left out of conversations about us, left out of conversations. We should be part of every conversation because we are
Nothing about us without us.
nothing about us
Number one
without
rule.
us. So it's got, we're the headliners. If you've ever wanted to be the headliner, yeah. And at the same time, the sports vibes. I mean, I love sports. Again, can't talk about that enough. So yeah, definitely join us. You can check that out on all of my platforms, which is at Allison Access is my handle on what do I have? Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever.
Or you can go to Shut the F Up on
Yep.
TikTok and check it out there.
Yeah.
And Alison and I are happy to give you links.
Absolutely.
Going on.
Yeah.
All
Come
right.
on.
So join the arena, join the fun. That's the other thing is, disability advocacy and disability rights can be very heavy as a topic, and it's serious. But you also need to find your fun, and so that's the other side of the power arena that is great is we tackle the topics, we advocate, we represent, but we also talk about having fun and doing things that are fun in your life to balance some of the challenges that we all have and face. And that's really an important part too.
So important. And that's just worth noting to anyone who's listening to this, advocacy and the world is just so heavy right now. And your mental health matters, your nervous system regulation matters to the extent that you can be taking care of it. I realize some people listening have different types of disabilities, including myself with endometriosis. I have to be my nervous system. So, there are a lot of things I do to try to make sure it doesn't get angry with me, but to the extent possible. And one of the things, having worked in this field for so long, that I had to learn early in my career, I personally had to learn this, and I put this out to everyone just to realize, like, we can't take on every issue all by ourselves. First off, we have to work together. Second off, find your fun. Yeah, so that's a campaign is literally part of what I teach and talk about in the arena in advocacy. In the same way, I'll talk about how somebody can contribute to public comments, because or can be following things. And so yeah, find your fun. Join our campaign. If like let's get out there. We want to see people creating videos and what you're doing for fun. Make sure you are finding that because we don't want I've literally seen people experience burnout, and I don't mean when we say burnout the short-term burnout. I mean we'll never come back to doing this work. There's also a thing called compassion numbness, meaning all of a sudden a tragedy, something that really bother you if you start seeing it too much. And this is why it's so important. It's part of advocacy.
It can definitely involve you, and to the point where your mental health does suffer. So we try to create this balance. We try to have fun, but we try to advocate and tell you about, the things that we all need to do to be able to stand up for our own rights and tackle some of the challenges that are happening right now in our society and in our communities. So, speaking of that, let's talk about 504 to start with, and let's talk about the states that have dropped out, and there's only a couple left that we need to conquer.
Only a couple left that need to shut the F up and get out.
Shut the F up, states including Florida, Texas, and
Alaska.
And we had a great discussion in the Power Arena about Alaska last week, where we talked about some of the unique challenges for Alaska that might have a state government hesitant to provide services through remoteness, through original communities. And so, it was a great discussion to be able to unpack that and for people to ask questions about, hey, why is Alaska one of the final three states? So,
And
Alice,
I get that question a lot. I get that question a lot.
would you like
And
to answer that here for everybody?
just really quickly, yeah. And please let us know in the comments. Again, this is one of our podcasts. We do some episodes where we like have a topic that we've planned more, and others where, we kind of are yapping, and that's important to disability and everything else. But yeah, Alaska I've received a lot of questions on, which is, oh, okay, well, Texas and Florida, I think people think, okay, that makes sense for whatever their reasons may be, who their governors are, all of that type of stuff. But people, a lot of people are like, what about Alaska? Well, what's interesting, one person caught my attention with a question where they said, is there something about the history or whatever? And there is a very interesting history, that go back less than 100 years ago, Alaska didn't have any in-state care facilities. So right now, I'm not talking about if institutions at the time were good or bad. I'm just talking about they didn't have any, right? So they literally shipped, like, the numbers are not 100% accurate, as they never are with disability, right? But approximately around 6,000 people to Oregon, all the way to Oregon, to be in psychiatric hospital. So people with psychosocial disabilities and developmental disabilities shipped. A large majority Native Alaskans. So not really sure, obviously, who made these decisions. There's a lot more that could be unpacked in terms of if we go into this deeper. But a lot of people, families never saw their family member again. And this is referred to as the lost Alaskans. Now, here we are in this battle, and it's almost on the flip side of things, saying, no, we can't provide these services in the community. That's too expensive. It's like the same fight on the opposite side of things, because apparently it's less expensive for them to have their in-care facilities that they have. That's a really short way of saying, but there is a history there for people who've asked. There is a reason that it does stand out. It seems different. And of course, do I, how do I agree with it or not? No, I don't. I'm sure that, but more it's the history that a lot of people are interested in, and definitely we can unpack that more, and I will unpack that more in content for sure. Check out and everything else.
And we talked a little bit about that happening around the world. Certainly,
Yes, yeah.
me being from Australia, we had
Yeah.
a lost generation as well in a different setting where Indigenous Australian children were taken away from their parents without any consent. And so we call that the lost generation as well. So there's numerous examples around the world of this kind of thing happening. And I know that people are really fearful about their own children being taken again by some of the things that have come out of DOJ and obviously RFK Jr. and some of the rhetoric around the loss of rights in their community to live independently. So this is a real thing, and from that initial discussion and what the DOJ did in June, I know a lot of people are still saying, well, I don't see any issue. There's nothing that's changed for me. But I can tell you, working in the industry, currently there is an audit going on across every state of America, and that audit is targeting vocational rehabilitation services and pre-employment transition services. And so right now they're evaluating and auditing what services should stay and what services should go. And in the fact that they are going outside of the charter to be able to provide a better learning environment, as an example, those states are actually being fined for doing that. And so now what we'll find after this audit happens is that the learning environment for people with disabilities will drastically change and services will be cut, even if people aren't at the level they need to be from training and resourcing to get a job or go to college or do university. And that's a drastic thing that's going to affect a lot more people. So,
and across disability types,
yes,
I know,
all disability.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And can I just ask, is part of this also, I know a lot of voc rehabilitation, depending on the state, if somebody becomes disabled, let's say at 35 years old,
Yes.
and needs training on skills for job skills or
Yes.
whatever,
That won't exist, and it already doesn't in 14 states, Alison. So 14 states have what's called order of selection. And basically that cuts out new clients and they go on a waiting list. And so if you become disabled, which a lot of people do on a regular basis from daily accidents, motor accidents, things like that, degeneration of eye conditions, hearing conditions, physical conditions, chronic illness, there's a whole range of different circumstances that this would affect, but it will drastically affect, and already is drastically affecting, service delivery to people with a disability. And we're not just seeing that in America as well. It's across a number of countries that are cutting services, cutting funding. Disability equality and inclusion is really being targeted on so many fronts right now. And that's why, I think people just need to be informed about that. That's certainly why we have this podcast. It's certainly why Alison has the Disability Power Arena. You need to be informed about the actuality of what's happening in your community that affects what you do as services.
100%. You need to be ready to realize, that's why this is called Shut the F Up. And it's because you need to be armed with knowledge and information. The assumption all around the world is people with disabilities has always been, hey, they don't know they don't have information. Ableism exists everywhere in every part of society, in every single thing. And that's the reason that to combat it, to be able to say shut the F up, whether it be actually saying it like someone like me sometimes in my content, or just in your own head, right? to people, but it's
hard to do it by yourself, like when we think about the history of disability rights in any country, it's been a movement, right? We've had to join together across the disability spectrum to be able to make a stand and say equality is like a fundamental right of humanity. And I think that that's kind of losing its notion right now, and we're being attacked from so many different sides, and people just don't know, right? Unless you work in the industry, you wouldn't know about the audit that's happening across all of the state agencies. And the state agencies are powerless to do anything. That's the important note, is that the federal government has this audit process, and the state agencies have to follow what the audit process is, or else they get fined. So they're not in control of anything at the moment. The federal government dictates what that funding mechanism will be. It dictates what services can be delivered, how often they can be delivered, to what efforts they can be delivered. So it isn't within a state's government or a state's agency remit to be able to challenge that, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And I think hopefully because of where you come from, we have some friends tuning in from Australia. I know NDIS, that some things that voted on this week that were really disappointing. Really disappointing. We would, please drop comments, share stories. I want to, from here in the US, be sharing. I repost everything, and I know Murray obviously has friends directly impacted so far, and I know we're going to see a lot more people impacted. And we're here to, again, we want to be able to elevate it, the conversation. If you're in the UK right now with the PIP stuff, I see so many awesome creators that we want to be there to repost your stuff, to get the message out. This fight is, and it has never been about one country. I just want to shock everyone who writes very strange ableist comments to me. This is I'm going to be polite and educational when I tell you, just shut the fuck up in the nicest way possible. But your disability doesn't stop at a border.
But it's also, we see posts all the time from people with disabilities that talk about uneducated or ignorant opinions that don't understand what the day-to-day of a person's life is. And they're making widespread decisions in our communities about what should happen. That part by itself is not great. And again, nothing about us without us comes into play. So I think what people with disabilities can put their hand up and say is, they have done a good job in contacting the states that were challenging 504. A number of states have dropped out in the last few months. And
Right.
that's,
We've seen 6 states drop out since January.
yep,
Should note that because one of the things I get a lot, and I know you hear this a lot too, is we'll hear it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I know. Well, I'm just not. I'm a fighter. I'm not gonna just let somebody push us around, right?
yep.
I know it can be rough. It can be tough. But then when you see states drop out, um, there
It's
was
a
the
big
not.
win, right? It's a
You know,
big win.
it's a big win, and it is a way to show like keep going, keep pushing. I know it's exhausting, man. We know that,
Yeah.
but
I was
you
just
know,
talking to one of the directors of a National Federation of the Blind in Louisiana 2 weeks ago, and I said, "Hey, congratulations!" I
mm,
said, "The work and advocacy that
mm,
you and other disability organizations did in Louisiana made a big difference to Louisiana dropping out." And she's like, "I'm just so thankful that our combined efforts really
mm,
made that difference." And so it can be really easy when you're a person, who isn't used to being in this spectrum, or you don't have a fight in the game, to be able to think, well, what can I do? But what you can do is be one of many people who
mm,
contacts your state and says this is unacceptable, and fight and show them that this is important to many people. And that's what's actually happened. Everyone's done a fantastic job in calling, emailing, getting in touch with their congressman, and really fighting hard
yeah.
to,
Showing up at town halls,
yeah,
PTA meetings, spreading the word in small towns at go when people are at church. I mean, people I'm from a small town. There's the community level. People don't realize this, just talking to somebody, my neighbor, talking to whomever, right?
yeah.
You're raising awareness. They might not know, but so I know because advocacy can look so different for everyone. And I want to make that so clear, that again, I'm pretty happy to be like, shut the F up directly to people if necessary. But advocacy is, I'm actually like, I don't love going to protests, like in person stuff,
Yeah.
largely because I have to go to the bathroom every 4 seconds. And I'm like, where's the bathroom? Where's the bathroom? I usually am like, oh, where's the food truck? I'm hungry now. They don't have a food truck at a protest? Like, it's just like numerous things. But, and I think people find that interesting where I'm like, no, that's actually not something. I think a lot of people think I want to, I'm an introvert. There's like too many people around if, between all of these reasons. But it looks different because some people I have amazing, that are out, that's what they could do. And they would never be as interested in getting online every day and getting the type of hate comments I receive. I got some real good ones yesterday, man. Some of my
You're
best.
doing a good job when you get the hate comments, right? If nobody
Yeah.
cares about what you're doing, then
I,
nobody bothers, right?
yeah, you're kind of exactly, man. When people are like, "You're about it." I gotta say to some of you people, I know you're not listening here, but in my content, I'm gonna respond to some of my best hate comments I've received recently. That just you win. You made me laugh so hard.
But it
Uh,
reinforces the ignorance that's out there, and the misunderstanding about what's actually
yeah,
happening.
yeah,
And I often think about, um, if you were affected, if these people who are writing these hate comments were affected the way that we've been affected in our
yeah,
community, what would they do? To just
yeah,
put yourself in our shoes for a little while
yeah,
and say some of your human rights were being challenged and taken away. What would you do as a hate person, with this mindset of, you know, people with disabilities are lazy and they don't want to work and all this stuff that
yeah.
isn't true? I think, that I
And
ask
they,
that question a lot is, well, let's say this happened to you in your vital situation, and
Mhm,
you weren't able to do the things that you thought had a
mhm.
right to do. What would you do? And oftentimes, it's the people who are all about their own rights that are doing this hateful comments, and so it's
Yeah.
very hypocritical in a lot of ways. And if they just stood back and understood that a little bit,
Mhm.
I think those hate people would think again before they wrote those comments.
Yeah, and if I could just take a second, I did a presentation with a group yesterday, and it was a private thing. So I'm just gonna just tell you one of the questions. It was a very good question from a person I've worked with or I've known as a colleague for a long time. Just said, so knew what the transition had worked in international law and development as well. Knew that this has been a rough year in some ways, and in other ways, I've found that hey, I'll pick up the camera and say what I have to say.
Yeah.
And one of the questions was, how is that? What is that like on your to do advocacy, online advocacy in terms of mental health, in terms of things? That was a really, really good question. I'm going to definitely be doing a lot more content on that question because I think that people need to know. I know that it's like for me, I grew up with Eminem and Pink. Throw whatever you want at me. some of it's I'm going to laugh really hard. Some of it's going to get a response because I can use it to educate a broader population, and some of it, okay, you just fed my algorithm. But you can, and I do want people to know that you can filter actually on all of the apps. There are ways to filter out stuff. I will say that actually TikTok is probably like the one that has the best on its own filter. Ableist comments can get through on TikTok a little easier just because, again, algorithms are not good with that. But man, the things I get on some of the other YouTube and Facebook sometimes are like, but just, I would say if that's your concern, anyone out there, please know that you can show up if you again, advocacy looks different. You don't necessarily have to be doing online advocacy. You might be somebody who's more comfortable writing emails to your local, media, whatever it may be, but also you can filter comments. You can turn off comments on most things. Just do what makes you comfortable. If you are somebody who it's going to really be bothered, and there are some things that like bother me enough, but usually that's like, okay, I harness that and turn it into like a punchback type of thing. But yeah, I do want to just say that there are ways, and that is something, again, ask the questions, because, and there's also always remember there is other ways. Just like I said, advocacy looks different for everyone. Some people are, going out and protesting. Some people are doing this, some people are doing that. We all need to be doing something. That's what we're trying to really get across.
And Alison, do you want to give the main switchboard number that people can call to be able to say what they want to say?
Well, so the capital switchboard number. So this is to call, and this is still very, very important. So at the federal level, there's a capital switchboard. It's 202-224-3121. Okay, that will get you. You'll be able to then ask to leave for your U.S. House representative. Okay, so your congressperson. And then so leave a message. And I'm going to be honest. We have scripts. I do videos that have scripts on there. Literally leaving a message being like, I'm a member of the disability community, or I care about the disability community. I want you to make it clear you stand with us. You could do that. I'm being serious. Like, we need to be flooding these phone lines. Also call, so you're gonna have to call back twice more, and your U.S. senators. So for me, I'm in the state of New York. That would be Senator Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand. But this type of stuff, the metrics at that level does matter. A lot of people, again, I get interesting questions all the time, to be honest with you, Murray. Lots of one person wrote to me, I don't really think there's a point to leaving voice messages, because that's what you're going to likely be doing, is leaving a voice message.
Yeah.
Because everyone just erases their voice messages now. I'm like, no, this is
different.
A little different. Yeah. No, I liked it though. I liked it. It was like, but yeah, no, it's the metrics. It's the metrics. They see the numbers. Yep.
That's a great thing about, working with the Disability Power Arena as an example, is there's a lot of questions from people who don't know. And we can just have a conversation about it and enlighten people. Like, it's such a great thing when people feel comfortable to have a conversation that they don't know something. There's no silly questions, right? Especially in this realm, and people need to be informed. And so that's what our podcast does. That's what Disability Power Arena does. It tries to inform you. Like, we should actually do a section of this podcast, Alison, where we take the comments that you've been given or some of the questions, kind of like an Alison mailbag is what I want to do. And
sure.
And then, we can talk about some of the mailbag stuff.
That's cool. We can do that. Totally. I do want to say, for Texas, Alaska, Florida, I don't have the information memory. I have a very good memory, but I don't have it right now. But I do have that information for your Attorney General's office to call. I also believe that all 3 states have in November, I believe all 3 states have their governors up for election. We'll triple check on that one, but I've heard from people in each state of such a thing. And I want to be so clear. I'm going to be so clear, and everyone shut the F up where they think I stand on this. Okay. November 3rd, like, we've had a lot going on disability rights issues in the US. If you're pissed, if you're mad, if you're exhausted, if you're whatever you are, you have a disability, a family member with a disability, you're a true ally, get a plan to vote. Get a plan to vote. But I'm going to be clear, because right now people are going to be like, oh, she's trying to, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I will never do that. I've worked around the world in places where
political podcast. This is
Mm.
just dealing with what we're dealing with in reality. And so we've always tried not to be that political thing and said, this is
Well,
what we believe in. But you
I
need
got
to
it.
have a vote. And
Yeah.
there is accessible voting, people. And so you don't necessarily have to go somewhere. You
Well, we're
can,
seeing this possibly challenged. This is where I want to make
right?
sure people are aware. And yeah, again, yeah, no, I don't, I've never wanted to take my platform, just to give it a sense. I've worked in so many countries around the world on election, legal reforms. I've worked in places as a blind person. I mean, it really, it hit me very early in my career where I was working in countries where people in the general election law, blind people with a lot of different disabilities could not vote, cannot run for office. So with that, I just believe that with my background, my knowledge is I want to educate, remind people, right? But that it's again, a lot of people like, hit me however you want, people, like whichever direction, be like, oh, well, you're not taking. No, it's about saying, like, people, I don't want to take someone's choice away by telling them who they should vote for. I think
Yeah.
that's the same thing as the things I've fought for years. And just because it's in my own country, no, I'm sorry. But I mean,
And there's a lot of political change within the parties as well
yeah,
currently right
yeah,
now, and
yeah,
so I feel like it's not our place to be political, but it is our place to inform,
yeah,
and it is our place to be able to advocate. And advocacy looks very different for different people, but find the way that you, as Alison said, find the way that you feel comfortable to advocate.
yeah,
But it's important you have a voice, as a person
yeah.
with your own rights. It's important that you have an advocacy in some way for standing up for what
Yeah.
you need and what you want.
And I just jumped in on you real quickly when you were talking about the mail-in vote thing, just because of the update from yesterday coming out of the Supreme Court, which was we're going to see it play out, but we may see some real restrictions on mail-in voting. So if you're listening to this, and you're me, so if me talking, I have ever since the 1 year that I went in person for a major election, it was in Maine, it was 2004. I did have somebody I wanted to definitely vote for and someone I did not want to vote for. I got it in large print when I was there and, privacy thing, whatever. But I really, I remember walking out being like, if I just voted the way I didn't want to vote. And then also there was this question about bear traps. I couldn't really read, but I did know it was a heated issue. And I remember being like, man. So I since then have moved to when I was in Virginia, when I was in Massachusetts, now New York, all of the states when I re-register or whatever, I have voted via getting it in an accessible way and then sending it back in. Um, so this is something that matters. There's been one time, I think, here in New York, because I live in a small town now, I was able to go and have somebody of my choosing, which is really important, like, say, hey, this person's going to come and assist me. I'm choosing this person. They're not going to be taking, and voting who they want to vote for.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, everyone, that's the reason I please be paying attention and your local level. I always say, have a plan for that day. And that goes across, and it's not just people with disabilities, it's across the board because, depending on where you are, if you need to get to the place, you have a plan and, all of that. But
Absolutely.
I think we'll be following this more too, because again, jumping in on that, Murray, I do have concerns of if that might be I mean, that's a major problem for the disability community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that advocacy organizations, national disability advocacy organizations, are really enveloped in making sure that people with disabilities can vote and have accessibility in voting. And so if you're not sure in your own disability group, reference your national organization and ask your national organization, hey, what can I do to that's a really important discussion to have. We'll also be posting more content about that and keeping you updated about how that works. But it's great to be able to connect with the national body who's doing the bulk of the advocacy around this.
Especially, and also because a lot of the times they are the ones that want to hear and get feedback as well after an election, that we are able to give feedback. And I have to, it is important. Some of the progress that we've made just in the last 20 years when I was voting, and I was in Syracuse, when I was in Syracuse, I'm like, when was it there? I was going to the NFB chapter in Syracuse meetings and stuff. And one of the things was us, preparing, making sure. And at the time, there was a lot more, we do keep progressing on accessibility no matter how someone wants to vote, if they want to go. I do know blind people who want to go in person. They feel more comfortable that way than they feel about getting the mail-in or whatever. But one of the things that we did after was, get feedback from people in the community and share that with the national, so that all of that's really important. It's really, really important. And
Yeah, 100%. So,
one more thing, if I may say,
yeah,
actually, because again, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. Again, I've worked in countries where people, again, they can't vote or whatever it may be. There's a lot of things. So the way I present is to inform people. But I will say, Medicaid cuts, if you're being affected by that, Medicare, Social Security, there are people that have at the federal level voted to strip these things from us. If you need more information, you can directly message and I can provide that information. But for me, I'll tell you, like, I'm not happy with any of those people that, how they voted. But again, that's why on November 3rd, you have a choice, and you have a choice that not everyone in the world has. Go in and exercise it. And none of this, it doesn't matter. It matters. Okay.
and coming from a country where it's compulsory to vote,
Mm.
And you're used to having that say, and everybody gets a chance to advocate. It is important for self-advocacy to have your voice be heard. And this is just another way that you can make a statement, and be a person that people aren't counting, that people aren't thinking is going to vote. And the more people who are put aside and their rights are restricted and challenged, those are the people who actually need to get up and speak and vote. They're the people who need to start being heard. And as a community, we're vast. There's a lot of us.
Yeah.
And that's really important to think about as well.
I also that there's this thing, oh, I'm sick of it. I'm just, I feel this way about it. Nothing changes. This might be just me coming from a small town and saying everyone in small town America, it's like we all vote. Got nothing better to do. No, I'm just kidding. Because we can also go try to find the moose, the things that I do.
Yeah.
No, I'm being serious. When you come from a place where decisions about town council to the mayor to the highway snow director, whatever that position's called. Man, I sound like a Miranda Lambert song right now.
Highway snow director.
The highway, yeah, like everyone dies everyone dies famous in a small town. No, but like when you see it coming down to 7 votes are the difference.
Yep.
That then I'll elevate. So this is you don't hear that, and then I also will openly say everyone that's like in cities and you're slamming and you think small town America is one way or another, please keep in mind that if you haven't been here, you don't like the assumptions are just like the assumptions about disability, just like the assumptions about everything. So let's keep having that open dialogue, and also know if you've ever seen something come down to 3 votes, man, you go.
Yeah.
And you think I'm joking? You think I'm joking about the highway snow director? That was a huge one. Now that's not the name of the position. I have to check the name of the position, but man, like 10 years ago, it was like a heated because we get a ton of snow up here, right? And then we have like a lot. I
thought the Ozarks were like kind of closer to the middle of the country. I don't know if you are, to be honest.
People are going to be confused. I'm from the Adirondacks. I'm not going to right near Lake Placid, New York, home of the 1980 Miracle on Ice. But the school district that I went to, right, is actually the largest land size wise, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yes.
In the state of New York, meaning school buses that go out and pick up, including me when I went to the school year. It's like, an hour and a half bus ride.
Little Allison on the yellow bus.
Man, I was rocking it. I was so popular. When you get cool and you get to sit on the back of the bus, like,
right.
Where you're like, as you get older and you're
well,
like,
you were the basketball MVP. I'm sure that you had pride of place.
Yeah.
I want to know if you had the same person sitting next to you, because I just want to know how much therapy they've had.
That's a good question. I should check in with them these days.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
All those days of sitting, listening to
but
non-stop.
But like the highway thing. So just to give a sense of like that matters to a big, amount, because these are like roads that most people would be like,
twist and turn right there.
Yeah, and it was such a hot. But when you see it like that, right, you're like, okay, this does matter, because even when you ask bigger level, it keeps mattering. So
okay,
Yeah.
we have a few minutes to finish off. Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to talk to the masses about?
Everything.
We'll be doing more content as well. Alison is
Yeah.
really big on short content, which I'm excited to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I do have a thought. I do have a random thought though to kind
okay,
of end this one, which is
throw it out.
I got this FIFA flush ball off of TikTok, and I've seen this thing all over TikTok, right? And people are like, "Oh, it's so cool, it has all of the flags." Well, here's the thing about it. It doesn't have all 48 countries that were there's flags. I'll start with that. But how am I the only person? You go zoom in and I'm taking photos to check to find now it's got to do it right here. Right here. Okay. That's the US flag. I don't know if this is like, can you see the
Yeah.
ball on
Okay.
screen?
Yeah.
I'm an Italian American. We've got 4 stars in our history, okay? Why is it we didn't make it to this World Cup? We didn't qualify. Why is this is this supposed to be a joke to insult us? This is the Italian flag. Why is it here?
Right. The Italians did not make it to the
They
world.
did not. And like, but like, what was funny is I've had to use accessible technology to figure out which flag each one was.
Yeah.
Some of them just stand out for my vision. I can tell, but some of them are close enough.
Yeah.
But then I was like, the Italian one for me, my eyes could go that, oh, maybe it's Ireland, which would be even more confusing to me, right? But as I'm kind of just checking, I'm like, how as a legally blind girl am I the first person to ask this question?
Yes. Well, maybe it was printed before the final. And they just
It might have been. It might have been.
Italy's like a no-brainer. They're going to be there, and then oops.
It might have been, but it's pretty funny that I had to use, accessible technology to notice that. So
That is great though that you did use accessible technology.
yeah.
We did our workshop, and I had blind students be able to call Be My Eyes and read the back of the instruction on their lunch.
A word, yeah.
To be able to cook it in the air fryer, and then they learned on the bump dots to be able to cook it in the air fryer. So an accessible toolkit, no matter what your disability is,
Totally.
physical, intellectual, sensory,
Yeah.
you need that toolkit, right? You need those adaptions to be able to function and feel comfortable and independent. And one of the arena members actually just did a video on this talking about tacos and cooking tacos. And they said, hey, I've never read the instructions before. I just know how to do it. And I decided one day I was going to read the instructions. And lo and behold, I wasn't doing a key step of what I was supposed to. And I tried it, and it's much better. So
yeah, us Star Guardians, we have some fun.
So there's an example of, hey, we try to do it our own way, but having a toolkit where you can get assistance to be more independent, that's the motto that we're looking for.
100%. 100%.
Good. I'm glad that we found out that you've got a fraudulent ball.
Well, again, I kind of
maybe you should ask for a refund, maybe, because it's not the authentic World Cup countries. Is the sheep shaggers on there? Have you looked at that?
No. There's no representation of anything. No. So it's basically, the Western European powerhouses you would expect. You've got Argentina. Argentina, and then of course you have Brazil, the only country in the world with 5 stars. So. But I just felt
I told you before, when you talk about Brazil, you've got to say Brazil.
I really do need to, because my mom and I we started training to try out for the Argentine Women's World Cup team next year. We chose that because although the U.S. women haven't qualified yet, they might be just a little bit too good right now for me. And the Italian women also haven't qualified yet. And I'm just a little nervous.
New Zealand. I mean, New Zealand would be the next logical country, surely.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it'll be fun. Yeah, so we'll see. Stay tuned because us hardcore training and having my Chihuahua Rambo as our lead trainer.
But you got to start hitting the tennis ball before you get into women's World Cup soccer. Okay, I've sent you tennis balls for you to start playing, and the challenge is you're going to play. But hey, my dog upstairs is barking, and we would be remiss if I didn't say, because we both have dogs, we're both fur baby lovers. And tomorrow is National Dog Appreciation Day. So if you've got a fur baby, give them a big hug for National Dog Day.
Show us. Yeah, let's see some content. Let's see some photos.
Videos. Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely. All right, my friend, that is episode 4. As a wrap, we'll be putting out some more short-term content. If you have things that you'd like us to talk about in the podcast, please drop us a note, DM us, join the Disability Power Arena, $59.99, $59.95, $59.91.
$59.99, yeah, and that's for a full year membership.
And for a full year membership, the resources that you get, the just the intelligence that you'll be able to build around disability advocacy and human rights is immeasurable. I was the first person to join. I believe in it.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to actually learn and have concrete skills, join us. If that's not your thing,
watch the Blind Tennis World Championships.
Yeah.
IBTA. Search YouTube for the IBTA World Championships.
And there's also the Amputee World Cup soccer football.
Fantastic.
That's just coming up. So I just saw that, and we'll be sure to make sure people know where they can watch that. But I did just find that out yesterday as well.
Adaptive soccer is great. You know, we've talked about power chair soccer. I have a good friend in Australia who's a member of the women's Australian cerebral palsy soccer team. And so there's many different versions to be able to look at and support. Alison, that is episode 4 as a wrap. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Drop us your comments. And in episode 5, we'll have Alison's mailbag, which I'm really looking forward to.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly. All right, cool.
Not maybe. It'll happen.
Okay. Well, everyone remember, knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.